The massive Telsarian warship hovered in Earth's orbit, its black hull absorbing sunlight like a void in space. Inside the ship's diplomatic chamber, Captain James Miller straightened his uniform and patted his golden retriever buddy on the head. "Ready to make some new friends, boy?" Miller whispered. Buddy wagged his tail in response, tongue lolling out in a doggy smile. Miller's superior, Admiral Wilson, frowned at the dog. "Are you sure bringing him was a good idea? The Telsarians are known for their formality. The briefing said they respect strength and companion animals." "Buddy is both," Miller replied with a confident smile, though his stomach churned with nerves. This was humanity's first major diplomatic meeting with the Galactic Coalition, and much was riding on making a good impression. The chamber doors slid open with a hiss. 3 Telsarians entered, their scaled blue skin catching the light. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow. The one in the center wore elaborate armor decorated with what looked like teeth and claws. "Commander Vrax of the 7th Telsarian Fleet," announced a computerized voice from a translator device. "Supreme Military Advisor to the Galactic Coalition." Miller stepped forward. "Captain James Miller of Earth's United Defense Force. We welcome you to our solar system." Vrax's upper set of arms crossed over his chest, while his lower arms rested on what appeared to be weapon holsters. "We have observed your planet for some time. Your species has potential, but the Coalition requires proof of worthiness before formal relations can begin." A smaller Telsarian wheeled in a large container behind them. The container rumbled and shook, with scratching sounds coming from inside. "Is that—" Admiral Wilson began, but fell silent as Vrax raised one of his 4 hands. "All species who join the Coalition must demonstrate their strength," Vrax said. His yellow eyes narrowed. "We have brought our greatest asset to this meeting. We will show you what true power means." Buddy, who had been sitting quietly by Miller's side, suddenly stood up and trotted forward, nose twitching with curiosity at the strange new smells. The Telsarians froze, all 6 eyes locked on the golden retriever. "What is this creature?" "A scout. An assassin," Vrax demanded, his lower hands moving to his weapons. "This is Buddy," Miller said calmly. "He's a dog, a companion animal from Earth." Vrax's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but his posture relaxed slightly. "Ah, you have brought your beast as well. Good. This will make our comparison more direct." Miller and Admiral Wilson exchanged confused glances. "Lieutenant," Vrax commanded to his subordinate, "unleash the beast." The smaller Telsarian pressed a code into the container. The front panel slid down with a metallic clang, revealing darkness inside. 2 glowing red eyes appeared in the shadows, followed by a low, rumbling growl that made the human's teeth vibrate. A creature slithered out, 6-legged with razor-sharp spines along its back, jaws that could snap a man in half, and claws that scraped against the metal floor leaving deep gouges. It was massive, easily the size of a tiger, with armored plates covering vital areas. "Behold the Krath," Vrax announced proudly. "Bred for war on our homeworld for 20 generations. It can smell fear, track prey across any terrain, and kill with a single bite." The Krath snarled, acidic drool dripping from its fangs. Buddy, seeing the new animal, did what any friendly golden retriever would do. His tail wagged even faster, and he gave an excited woof, before dropping into a playful bow, rear end up in the air. The Krath stopped, clearly confused by this reaction. "Now," Vrax said with what might have been a smile, revealing rows of pointed teeth, "unleash your beast, human." Miller blinked. "He's already unleashed." "What?" Vrax looked between Miller and the happy dog. "That is your war beast." Buddy sat down and offered his paw to the alien commander. "No," Miller said, fighting back a smile. "That's just a good boy who wants to say hello." Commander Vrax stared at Buddy with all 6 of his eyes blinking in sequence. The golden retriever sat patiently, paw still extended in greeting. tail sweeping the floor in broad, friendly strokes. "This is some kind of joke," Vrax finally said. His voice translator couldn't fully capture the mixture of confusion and offense in his tone. "You bring a soft creature to a diplomatic showing of strength." Captain Miller knelt beside Buddy and scratched behind his ears. "This is a dog. Specifically, a golden retriever. Humans have lived alongside dogs for thousands of years." The Krath, Vrax's beast, circled its area restlessly. It kept its red eyes fixed on Buddy, seemingly as confused as its master about the lack of aggression from the furry earth creature. "But what does it do?" demanded Lieutenant Drez, Vrax's second-in-command. "Where are its weapons? Its armor?" Admiral Wilson stepped forward. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. We didn't realize this meeting would involve combat demonstrations." Vrax's upper arms made a dismissive gesture, while his lower arms adjusted something on his armor. "Not combat. Strength assessment. All coalition species must prove their methods of control and dominance." Miller stood up slowly. "Dogs aren't tools for dominance. They're companions, friends. We don't control them through fear. We form bonds with them." The Telsarian delegation exchanged glances. Lieutenant Drez leaned close to Vrax and whispered something that made the commander's scales ripple with what might have been disbelief. "Explain this bond," Vrax ordered. Just then, one of the human assistants entered with refreshments. Buddy's ears perked up at the smell of food, and he looked at Miller with hopeful eyes. "Watch," Miller said. He turned to Buddy. "Sit." Buddy sat. "Shake." Buddy offered his paw again. "Lie down." Buddy flopped to the floor. "Now stay," Miller instructed, placing the small treat on the dog's nose. Buddy remained perfectly still, eyes crossed slightly to keep the treat in view. And, "Okay." With a gentle flip of his head, Buddy tossed the treat up and caught it in his mouth, then looked up proudly at Miller. The Telsarians watched this display with complete silence. "You see," Miller explained, "dogs want to please us. We've evolved together. They help us hunt, protect our homes, and provide companionship. In return, we feed them, shelter them, and care for them." Vrax turned to his Krath. "Sit," he commanded in his native tongue. The Krath hissed and snapped its jaws at him. "Control protocols failing," Lieutenant Drez muttered, frantically adjusting a device on his wrist. "Neural inhibitor needs recalibration." A low warning sound emitted from the Krath as it began to pace more aggressively, its spines rising along its back. "Is everything okay with your pet?" Admiral Wilson asked cautiously. "It is not a pet," Vrax snapped. "It is a weapon, a tool, a symbol of Telsarian might, and it obeys." He turned back to the creature. "Sit." The Krath roared, a sound that sent vibrations through the floor of the chamber. Everyone tensed, except Buddy. The golden retriever calmly stood up, trotted across the room, and sat directly in front of the agitated Krath. The fearsome alien creature froze, its red eyes fixed on the dog. Buddy tilted his head curiously, then did something that left all the aliens speechless. He licked the Krath's armored nose. The Krath blinked repeatedly. Then, to everyone's shock, it slowly lowered itself to the floor in a sitting position, its aggressive posture relaxing. "Impossible," whispered Drez. 20 generations of genetic manipulation, neural implants, and behavior conditioning, undone by a furry creature with no visible weapons. Miller smiled. "Sometimes the strongest weapons aren't claws or teeth. Sometimes it's knowing how to make friends." Vrax stared at Buddy, then at the now calm Krath. "Human," he said slowly, "I believe we have much to learn about your species' definition of strength." Commander Vrax paced the diplomatic chamber, all 4 arms moving in agitation. His scales had darkened to a deep blue, a sign of embarrassment among Telsarians. The other coalition representatives watched from the edges of the room, whispering among themselves. "This is unacceptable," Vrax finally said, turning to face Captain Miller. Your creature has somehow interfered with our craft. Such tactics are not honorable. The craft still sat calmly where Buddy had left it. The fearsome beast occasionally glanced at the golden retriever, who had returned to Miller's side. There was no interference, Miller explained. Dogs are social animals. They can often sense and respond to emotions in ways that surprise even us. Lieutenant Drez approached his commander and spoke quietly. The other coalition representatives are amused. This does not reflect well on Talsarian military prestige. Vrax's eyes narrowed to slits. A proper demonstration is required, he announced loudly. Captain Miller, I formally challenge your beast to compete against the Krath. Admiral Wilson stepped forward quickly. Commander, surely that isn't necessary. It is decided, Vrax interrupted. Unless humans fear to show their creatures' true abilities. Miller looked down at Buddy, who gazed back with trusting brown eyes. He's not a fighter, Commander. He's a companion. Then demonstrate his value as a companion, Vrax countered. Our training facility has testing grounds for various skills. If your dog truly represents Earth's approach to other species, prove its worth. Miller knelt beside Buddy, scratching his golden fur. The stakes were becoming clear. This wasn't just about Buddy anymore. This was about humanity's first impression on the Galactic Coalition. What kind of tests? Miller asked cautiously. Vrax's mouth formed what might have been a smile, though it looked more predatory than friendly. Simple challenges. Tracking. Problem solving. Endurance. Nothing that would harm your friend. Lieutenant Drez tapped on a tablet, projecting images of an enormous training facility onto the wall. The evaluation grounds, used to test all coalition security forces. One of the other alien representatives, a tall insectoid being, clicked its mandibles. Most interesting, the Talsarian approach versus the human approach. A practical demonstration. Admiral Wilson pulled Miller aside. This is getting out of hand. Buddy is just a regular dog, not some super soldier. Miller watched as the images showed obstacle courses, scent tracking mazes, and endurance tests. Actually, sir, dogs are pretty amazing. And Buddy did complete service dog training before becoming my companion. This isn't just about the dog, Wilson whispered urgently. This is about trade agreements, technological exchange, our entire relationship with the Coalition. Miller nodded. I understand, sir. He turned back to Vrax. We accept your challenge, Commander. Vrax clapped his upper arms together. Excellent. The trials will begin tomorrow. 3 tests: intelligence, tracking, and teamwork. And what are the stakes? Miller asked. Vrax's yellow eyes gleamed. If your dog proves superior, humans will receive preferred trading status with the Coalition. If the Krath prevails, Earth will provide the Coalition with breeding stock of your dogs for military research. Miller's face hardened. No, dogs are not research subjects or weapons. They're family. The room fell silent. Even the translator seemed to hesitate before converting Miller's words. Family. Vrax repeated, the concept clearly foreign to him. You claim kinship with a different species. In a way, yes, Miller said firmly. I'll agree to your challenge, but the stakes need to be different. If Buddy wins, Earth joins the Coalition as a full member, not just a trading partner. If we lose, I'll personally help you understand the human-dog relationship through cultural exchange. The other Coalition representatives murmured with interest. This was not how diplomatic meetings usually proceeded. Vrax studied Miller, then Buddy, who had fallen asleep at the captain's feet despite the tension in the room. Your creature sleeps during negotiation, Vrax observed. Either you are very confident or very foolish. Miller smiled. Maybe a bit of both. Do we have a deal? After a long pause, Vrax extended one of his right hands. Deal, human. Tomorrow, we shall see what your good boy is truly capable of. The Coalition testing facility was massive, a sprawling complex of metallic structures and training zones. Captain Miller stood at the entrance with Buddy by his side, taking in the alien architecture that seemed designed to intimidate. Various species from the coalition had gathered to watch the unusual competition. Some floated in anti-gravity pods, others perched on high observation platforms. "Welcome to the evaluation grounds," announced Commander Vrax, approaching with his craft stalking behind him. Today the creature wore a complex headpiece with blinking lights, clearly an upgraded control device. "Are you prepared to begin?" Miller nodded, giving Buddy a reassuring pat. "We're ready." Admiral Wilson and Lieutenant Ellis from Earth's delegation watched nervously from a nearby platform. "First test, intelligence," Vrax declared. A series of puzzles materialized in the center of the arena, strange boxes with moving parts, hidden compartments, and glowing symbols. The subject must open each container to retrieve the reward inside, explained a coalition official with translucent skin. "Time is measured." The Krath went first. With surprising dexterity for such a fearsome creature, it used its claws to manipulate the mechanisms of the first puzzle. It completed the task in 30 seconds. The second puzzle took longer, and by the third, the creature was growing visibly frustrated, slashing at the box until it broke open. 7 minutes, 12 seconds total, announced the official. Above average. Next was Buddy's turn. "Go ahead, boy," Miller encouraged. Buddy approached the first puzzle cautiously, sniffing it thoroughly. He tried pawing at it, then pushing it with his nose. Finally, he pressed a specific panel, and the box opened. "That's just luck," muttered Vrax. But on the second puzzle, Buddy again took his time exploring before precisely triggering the release mechanism. The third puzzle seemed to confuse him briefly, but after circling it twice, he found the right spot to press with his paw. 5 minutes, 43 seconds, the official announced. Superior performance. Vrax's scales darkened with emotion. Second test, tracking. They moved to an enclosed maze filled with artificial fog and strange obstacles. The goal was to locate 5 hidden objects by scent alone. The craft performed impressively, using its enhanced senses to navigate the confusion of smells. It found 4 of the 5 objects before the time limit expired. "Excellent performance," the official noted. Miller knelt beside Buddy before his turn. "Find it, boy," he whispered, letting Buddy sniff a sample cloth. The golden retriever entered the maze with confidence. The audience watched on monitors as he navigated the twisting paths with purpose, not distracted by the many decoy scents planted throughout. Within minutes, he had located all 5 objects. "Perfect score, record time," announced the official, unable to keep surprise from their voice. Murmurs spread through the watching aliens. The Krath hissed in frustration, sensing its defeat. The final test. Teamwork, Vrax announced stiffly. The arena transformed again, revealing a complex obstacle course. The handler and subject must complete the course together, demonstrating coordination and trust. Vrax and his Krath went first. It was immediately apparent that their relationship was based on control, not cooperation. The Krath frequently resisted commands, forcing Vrax to increase the power on his control device. They finished the course, but it was clear to everyone watching that the two were fighting each other as much as the obstacles. When Miller and Buddy approached the starting line, the difference was obvious. No control devices, no threats or force, just simple commands and trust. "Ready, Buddy? Let's show them how we do it on Earth." They moved through the course as one unit. When Miller needed to climb, Buddy waited patiently. When Buddy needed to crawl under barriers, Miller guided him with gentle words. At one point, Miller pretended to be injured, and Buddy immediately shifted roles, pulling Miller to safety before continuing. When they crossed the finish line, even some of the coalition representatives were applauding. "The Earth team has clearly won this round," the official declared. "Final scores confirm human victory in the challenge." Vrax stood rigid, his pride visibly wounded. This was not a fair assessment of military capability. Miller smiled, kneeling to embrace an excited buddy. "That's because we weren't showing you military capability, Commander. We were showing you something much more powerful: partnership." The celebration of Buddy's victory was cut short by a sudden power failure. Emergency lights flickered on, casting eerie red shadows across the testing facility. "What's happening?" Miller asked, hand protectively on Buddy's back. A loud alarm blared through the complex, followed by an automated voice in multiple languages. "Security breach detected. All personnel proceed to evacuation points. Containment protocols activated." Commander Vrax's communication device buzzed with urgent messages. "The facility's main power core is unstable," he growled. "We must evacuate immediately." As if responding to his words, heavy metal barriers began dropping from the ceiling, sectioning off parts of the facility. Miller, Buddy, Vrax, and a handful of coalition representatives found themselves trapped in a rapidly sealing chamber. "This section will be completely locked down in 30 seconds, warned a coalition security officer with 4 eyes. "The emergency exit is on the other side." Everyone rushed toward the indicated doorway, but before they could reach it, the lights failed completely. Darkness enveloped them, broken only by the dim glow of emergency strips along the floor. Panic spread through the group. In the confusion, someone bumped into Vrax, who stumbled against the control panel for the craft's neural inhibitor. The device sparked and went dead. A low, menacing growl echoed through the darkness. "The craft." Lieutenant Drez's voice was tight with fear. "The control system is offline." Miller felt Buddy tense beside him. The golden retriever wasn't growling, but his body had gone rigid with alertness. "Everyone stay calm," Miller ordered. "Sudden movements will trigger predatory instincts." A crash from the far side of the room suggested the craft was already on the move, knocking over equipment as it stalked through the darkness. Its red eyes glowed faintly, the only indication of its position. "We need to reach the emergency exit," whispered a coalition representative. "But none of us can see in this darkness." Vrax's voice came from nearby, uncharacteristically tense. "The craft can see perfectly. It is engineered for night hunting. Without the neural inhibitor, it will view us all as prey." Miller knelt beside Buddy. "Find the way out, boy," he whispered. "Find the door." Buddy immediately pressed his nose to the ground, sniffing intently. While the aliens had superior technology, they lacked the natural abilities that dogs had developed over thousands of years of evolution alongside humans. The craft screamed, a sound like metal being torn. It had caught the scent of the group. "It's coming," hissed Vrax. "Prepare to defend yourselves." Miller kept one hand on Buddy's back as the dog led him through the darkness. "Follow us," he called to the others. "Stay close." Buddy moved with purpose, guiding them around obstacles they couldn't see. Behind them, the sounds of the craft grew louder, claws scraping on metal, angry hisses as it pursued them. "The beast is playing with us," Vrax said grimly. "In its natural state, it enjoys the hunt." Suddenly, Buddy stopped and pawed at a section of wall. Miller ran his hands over the surface and felt the outline of a door. "Here, the emergency exit." The craft howled, much closer now. In the dim red light, Miller could make out its massive shadow, spines fully extended in hunting mode. Vrax fumbled with the door controls. "It's locked. The power failure has activated security protocols." Buddy barked sharply, then moved to a small panel near the floor. He pawed at it insistently. "What is your creature doing?" Drez demanded. Miller dropped to his knees, feeling where Buddy was indicating. "There's some kind of access port here." One of the coalition scientists pushed forward. "A manual override, designed for maintenance drones." With shaking hands, the scientist activated the mechanism. The door slid open just enough for them to squeeze through one at a time. "Go," Miller ordered, ushering the aliens through first. The craft charged, sensing its prey escaping. Vrax, the last alien, hesitated at the door. "You and your creature go first," Human. Miller shook his head. Buddy, go. The dog slipped through the gap. The Krath lunged just as Miller and Vrax squeezed through together. The door slammed shut behind them, the beast's roar of frustration muffled by the thick metal. In the safety of the evacuation corridor, Vrax stared at Miller, then at Buddy, who was checking each person as if ensuring everyone had made it. Your beast, Vrax began. His name is Buddy, Miller corrected gently. Buddy, Vrax said, the name strange on his alien tongue, saved us all. The day after the power failure, Commander Vrax requested a private meeting with Captain Miller. They met in a small observation room aboard the Talsarian ship, overlooking Earth. Buddy accompanied Miller, lying contentedly at his feet. Your planet looks peaceful from here, Vrax said, his yellow eyes fixed on the blue-green sphere. Deceptively so. Miller nodded. Many visitors say that. Vrax turned, his 4 arms clasped in front of him in what Miller had learned was a gesture of respect. I have been studying your species since yesterday's events, specifically your relationship with these dogs. And what have you found? Miller asked. Contradictions. Vrax activated a holographic display showing ancient cave paintings of humans hunting alongside wolves. Your historical records indicate that dogs were once wolves, predators that competed with humans for resources. That's right. Over thousands of years, we formed a partnership. They helped us hunt. We shared food. The hologram shifted to show modern images. Service dogs helping blind people, search and rescue dogs digging through rubble, therapy dogs visiting hospitals. You took a predator and turned it into this. Vrax sounded genuinely confused, not through neural implants or genetic engineering, but through what you call domestication. It was a mutual evolution, Miller explained. Dogs changed us too. Some scientists believe humans developed our capacity for empathy partly through our bond with dogs. Vrax paced the room, scales shifting colors as he processed this information. The Talsarian way has always been domination. We do not form partnerships, we create tools and weapons. Like the Krath. Yes, Vrax stopped pacing. The Krath was once a wild species on our homeworld. But instead of forming a bond as you did with wolves, we captured them, altered them, and bent them to our will. Buddy yawned and stretched before settling back down. Vrax watched him with newfound curiosity. May I? The commander asked, gesturing toward Buddy. Miller nodded. Go ahead. Carefully, Vrax knelt beside the golden retriever and extended one of his hands. Buddy sniffed it, then licked his scaly fingers. Vrax jerked back in surprise. He tasted me. Miller laughed. That's how dogs show affection. Affection. Vrax repeated the word as if it were from an alien language, which Miller realized it probably was. Commander, if you don't mind my asking, why did you arrange this meeting? Vrax stood, seeming to come to a decision. The Coalition has always evaluated species based on their military strength and technological advancement. It is why the Talsarians hold such high rank. We excel at both. And humans. Your technology is primitive by our standards. Your military power is negligible compared to most Coalition species. Vrax paused. But yesterday, your creature, Buddy, demonstrated something our scientists cannot explain. He worked with you, not for you. He made decisions independently while still following your guidance. Miller nodded. That's what partnership means. The Krath is a more powerful creature in every measurable way. Vrax continued. Yet in a crisis, it became a threat, while your dog became a savior. The commander activated another hologram, a formal document covered in alien script. This is my report to the Coalition Council. In it, I have recommended that humans be granted full membership status with immediate effect. Miller stared in shock. But you said our technology is primitive, yes. Vrax's mouth formed what Miller now recognized as a Talsarian smile. But your approach to other species reveals a wisdom that the Coalition has overlooked. We have conquered the stars through force and fear. Perhaps there is another way. Vrax reached down again, this time confidently stroking Buddy's golden fur. Your kind has much to teach us, Captain Miller. And it took a simple good boy to help us see it. Miller smiled. He is a good boy, isn't he? The best, Vrax agreed, with surprising warmth in his translator's voice. Perhaps the very best. 1 month after the historic challenge, the Galactic Coalition held a formal ceremony aboard their massive headquarters station. The immense circular chamber was filled with representatives from over 50 alien species, all gathered to witness Earth's official induction into the interstellar community. Captain Miller stood at the center of the platform, dressed in his formal uniform. Beside him sat Buddy, wearing a special blue collar with the Earth emblem. The golden retriever watched the proceedings with calm interest, occasionally wagging his tail when a friendly alien approached. "Never thought I'd see a dog at an interstellar treaty signing," Admiral Wilson whispered, standing nearby. "Then again, we wouldn't be here without him." Commander Vrax approached the platform, looking dramatically different from their first meeting. His battle armor was gone, replaced by formal diplomatic robes. More surprisingly, trotting beside him was a small Earth puppy, a black Labrador with bright eyes and floppy ears. "Captain Miller," Vrax greeted, extending his upper right hand. "The ceremony will begin shortly." "Commander," Miller nodded toward the puppy. "I see you've made a new friend." Vrax's scales rippled with what Miller now recognized as pride. "This is Scout, the first of what we hope will be many canine companions for Talsarian families." The puppy looked up at Vrax with complete adoration, then playfully pounced on his own tail. "He is still learning," Vrax said, somewhat apologetically. "Your training guidelines have been challenging to implement." Miller smiled. "Patience is the key. Relationship before obedience. A concept foreign to Talsarian culture," Vrax admitted, "but one we are eager to explore." The Coalition Grand Speaker, a tall being with luminous skin, stepped to the central podium. "Today marks a historic occasion," their translated voice echoed through the chamber. "For the first time, the Coalition welcomes a species not for their weapons or technology, but for their unique perspective on cooperation." The assembly turned their attention to a large view screen showing images from Earth, humans working alongside dogs in various roles: police work, farming, search and rescue, and simple companionship. Humanity's relationship with dogs has demonstrated a path of mutual evolution that many of our civilizations abandoned millennia ago. The speaker continued. "This partnership model offers new possibilities for coalition species to interact." Miller felt a surge of pride. What had begun as a misunderstanding had evolved into something profound, a new basis for interstellar relations. The signing ceremony proceeded with appropriate gravity, but the real surprise came afterward. Vrax stepped forward with an announcement. "The Talsarian Genetic Authority has begun work on a new program," he declared. "We are modifying the genetic structure of the Krath species, not to enhance their aggression, but to restore their capacity for social bonding." Murmurs spread through the crowd. "Our first success," Vrax continued, gesturing to a side door. A smaller, less spiny version of the Krath padded into the chamber. Gone were the glowing red eyes and neural implants. Instead, the creature moved with natural grace, its scales a softer blue. Most shockingly, it approached Buddy without aggression, sniffing curiously. Buddy, ever the diplomat, offered a playful bow. After a moment's hesitation, the modified Krath mimicked the gesture. "The first step in repairing what we broke," Vrax said quietly to Miller. "Your dog taught us that true strength lies not in creating weapons, but in building bonds." As the ceremony concluded, representatives from a dozen species approached Miller with requests for Earth dogs and training programs. The Canine Ambassador Initiative was born on the spot, with Buddy as its honorary first member. Later, in a quiet moment before returning to Earth, Miller found Vrax in an observation lounge, throwing a ball for Scout, who happily retrieved it each time. You know, Vrax said, watching the puppy bound back with the ball, we spent centuries developing the perfect weapon, only to discover that the perfect companion was what we truly needed. Miller smiled as Buddy settled beside him, resting his golden head on his paws. Sometimes the universe's greatest gifts come with wagging tails. Indeed, Vrax agreed, tossing the ball once more. Who would have thought that when I ordered Unleash the Beast, it would lead to this? The best mistakes, Miller said, are the ones that lead us somewhere better than we planned to go.